Numerology is so much more than predicting the future or choosing the ideal partner, date, or name. It's the bridge between who you are now and who you have the potential to be. Michelle Buchanan. Are you curious about healing modalities, but don't know how or where to start? Which ones are real and what's just a trend? Who to trust to work with you or in your energy? Me too. I'm Cris, and this is Grounding Journey. I've been on a lifelong journey and wanted to dig into a variety of ways to heal along the way and the tools we can use to do it. So I found some neat women who use different modalities to heal themselves and those around them. I invited them to have a conversation with me where they can share about their journey, what called them to their favorite modality, and how they use their tools on their journey and the profound results they've seen. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Grounding Journey. I am honored to have my guest, Andrea Arledge, and we are going to talk numerology with a little bit of Reiki peppered in, some life experience. And we have already had so much fun chatting as we were getting started. So we're going to try to recreate some of that for you. But Andrea is a nurse turned Reiki master, teacher, and spiritual life coach. Her clients like to call her their soul nurse. She left a 16-year nursing career to do healthcare differently, which is what we are all so interested in. And that to her is tending to the mind, the body, and the spirit. Not fragmenting ourselves like she's witnessed as a nurse and as a patient. And that right now is so relevant for us all, especially, the day and time going into fall. We're both coming over colds. So while we joked earlier that we think we sound like sexy Phoebe from Friends, we know we probably don't. So we appreciate you listening to this whole episode, even if we don't sound our best. So Andrea, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here too. I know the conversation is going to be great just from the start.
Yes. Well, so tell us, I've read your formal introduction and we've gotten a feel for you, but tell us who you are. Who do your friends know you as?
I think it's so funny. I was thinking about this earlier, how I used to be so extroverted in high school. Of course, that was a very long time ago, but I was this extrovert. And now I think people, my friends totally get it. Like I'm basically a hermit. like and like to talk, have deep conversations. Like I can't,
Mm.
and they know, like I can't just the shallowness. I don't know. There's this richness in life. I know that I've witnessed, and we'll go more into my story. But yeah, I think they would see me as the hermit who likes to have great, deep conversations about numbers, obviously, and energy, and really a lot of the healing things that happen. That's just been my life. So.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's so, it's always the quality over the quantity. I have three really dear friends in life, and I'm good with three. I don't need 20 acquaintances. I'm good with those three. And each of them is a different soul in my life and a different purpose. But man, try
Mm,
to take them away from me, and I'm going to fight for them.
right. Yeah. Find those quality. I love how you said that. It is totally quality
Yeah. And
over
it's
the
having those
quantity.
deeper conversations because
Mhm.
we're at the age we were discussing, and we'll discuss a little more with numerology, but we are both in our mid 40s. And there's a different level of deepness and not living on the surface. And that's been a topic of conversation amongst a friend and I, and even my husband and I lately about we've gotten to this point in life where it is deeper and we're reviewing what we really want out of the next half of our lives. And that's interesting. And
Well,
we'll
that gave
just
me
kind of
cold
see
chills.
where the conversation rolls as you and I have already experienced. We promised we will get to numerology.
I
But
know.
my grandmother passed away at 98. So I'm not even halfway,
Wow.
based on her age. And
Mhm.
looking at the fact that I have as much life as I've lived, possibly still ahead of me. And she just passed away last year. So, you know, it's interesting. And there's a lot of reflection in that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. My grandfather passed too last year, and he was the last of my grandparents to go. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like this, it does like make you think about, wow, wait, where is life? Where is it taking me? Where is it taking me now? You
Yes.
know, and, yeah, one thing, and I'm just going to dive in and start telling you a little
Go
bit
for it.
about my, I guess who's kind of made me who I am. So when I was 15, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And
Okay.
that was the beginning of all of this, you know, and I really look back because some people have asked me like, what was the pivotal moment when you had like a spiritual awakening or whatever? Back then I would not have called that a spiritual awakening. That was the worst, I mean, time of my life, you know. But, well, the doctor told me, you're not going to live a long life. You know, you're going to, if you have babies, don't. Well, if you do have them young, that's what she said. And, you know, because you could potentially die. And so I had that.
Wow,
In
that's
my
intense
mind.
at 15.
I know, right? Like, let's just go right down to the depths of the things. But, you know, I had to unwind a lot of that, and still, I mean, I'll be quite honest with you with this whole what's happened during the pandemic. I've been like, that was like nightmare, you know, the kind of nightmares I had when I was a teenager of things happening. So I've really had to talk about self-reflection in the last 2 years. But anyway, so that I do say that was part of my spiritual awakening, because it really, I knew it was part of my healing path. I knew that the only way I was going to quote unquote heal myself was to help others. You know, by the time that I got around to going to nursing school, though, I had, you know, done the self-fulfilling prophecy of having a child when I was a child. When I was 18, I had a daughter who was the best thing that ever happened to me. So it's funny how everything is a stepping stone, you know, all of the things that she told me, she being the doctor, and me believing her, and how it really did contribute. It probably really did save my life, because I would have been at Clemson University partying with my friends, you know, maybe, you know, and that just wasn't in my cards. It wasn't the best thing for me. So, yeah, and that really has shaped a lot of who I am today. Not that I identify with that, because I've had lots of very spiritual experiences, where one day I was actually dieting with this stone medicine. So I make little tinctures and things like that. And, you know, I believe so much in energy and energetics of things. And one day it was rutilated quartz, I remember, and it's good for like autoimmunity and immunity and things like that. And I remember I had this experience. I was on my back porch and I just went down on my knees, and I heard, because I'm very clairaudient, like I hear things, and I heard, you don't have to be cured to be healed. You don't have to be cured to be healed. And it was this major like opening for me to have that understanding, and it just put a whole new perspective on what it meant to be a healed person, you know, not a cured person. There's a major difference, right? But I don't have to, I don't know. I could just focus on that right now, forever, and just, you know, convey that message to anybody that's living with or in a body that they don't feel safe in, you know, is that you don't have to be cured to be healed.
I love that. That there's so much depth to that, that just taking that in for a moment. And there were several things you said before that I want to revisit, but I just want to kind of hold space for that for a moment of, you don't have to be cured to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a
It
social
brings
media
tears,
post.
right? It brings tears to my, because it is so true, you know, and the more you can like try to, you know, as a way to cope, like changing the way that you look at things. And it really shifted my perspective on everything. And it came years later, you know, after like being a nurse. That was after my nursing career, after I'd left.
Well, a couple things I want to revisit that you said, and I'm sure we will revisit that statement several times, because I think it does have so much merit to it. is talking about being on a spiritual journey. Now, you had your daughter at 18. I had my son at 24, which isn't super young, but it's still young by today's standards.
Mhm.
Um, and I know for myself, having Kevin opened such a spiritual portal in
Yeah.
me. But then it took years for me to figure out what to do with that portal because I was parenting, I was in a disaster of a marriage. Um, so it opened something you can't ignore. You
Mm-mm.
can quiet it a little bit for a little while until it's had enough. And then that portal will say, pay attention to me. I'm the 3-year-old temper tantrum now.
Right.
And I think that that is a blessing of children. It was
Oh
a
yeah.
blessing of having Kevin for me. And I don't know if that's, I've never really talked about it to somebody else, but hearing you say that at 18, it was a blessing for you. Um,
Yeah. And talk about numbers. So I'll just throw this in there.
yeah, please.
Okay, so my archetypal numbers are like I'm an 11-2. Well, my
Okay.
daughter's name is Weston, and Weston's birthday is 11/22, and her archetypal numbers are also an 11-2, which I know
Nice.
that's a kind of confusing, but we have the same numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just see in her like healing um, and ancestral patterns. I feel like that happens
Mm,
with her, of
mm,
like with my mom having a child early, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just is, by society standards,
right.
now it feels very young, very
Right.
young. And so anyway, it just is so funny how we get confirmation along the way, even
Mm-hmm.
in those numbers. I'm like, and I didn't realize that until I stumbled on numerology, and that's just been I've really just been studying that for the last 3 years. So I'm like, wow. So talk about self-reflection.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you said the word confirmation. The universe is so willing to support us and tell us what we need to hear. It's just a matter
Mhm.
of, are we looking for it
Mhm.
and
Right.
are we paying attention to it? And you mentioned that you hear stuff, and I
Mhm.
definitely have had my experiences. And there are other experiences where I'm like, dagnabbit, why can't I hear you? And I've said it before. One of my prayers when I call my guides and angels in is, and I don't do it every day because that every day I want them to yell at me. But when I know I'm really struggling, I say, please enter my space, guide me, lead me, and direct me. And if I'm not listening, talk louder so I hear you.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
And
Talk
and I think,
louder.
yeah, and that's why I say some days I'm like, yeah, I'm not really ready for you to yell at me. Like I need baby gloves today. Um, but the universe is so willing, and obviously it gave you so much confirmation with your daughter that you didn't even understand or know at the time what it
Mm-mm.
meant.
Right. Oh, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's
So
just so interesting.
so then the next thing you said was your daughter. Oh crud, I didn't write the other thing down. Oh, dieting with crystals.
Oh, yeah.
So the totally off topic, but some of our listeners may have heard of dieting with plant medicine. So I'm very familiar. I, in my other world, have a client who is a plant medicine. Actually, I have 2 clients who are plant medicine. So I'm used to hearing dieting.
Mhm.
But I'm really interested because I'm a huge crystal fan. I've got them all over my desk, all over my room. Um, I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
So, all right. So I'd taken I studied 3 years with a teacher that taught Taoist stone medicine. And, I got really into making these elixirs. Actually, I know I know you can see this and the audience can't, but just literally making energetic elixirs, with different stones, and allowing that. I don't ever put stones in water because you don't know
Mm-hmm.
where they've been. So it's a very energetic, just imprint of that
Okay.
stone. right? So it's just another way of imbibing that energy, infusing yourself with that energy. And so it would be the same as dieting with like a, it's a little different actually. Absolutely.
It's not hallucinogenics and great trips.
Right. Well, hold on. So, it's very energetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Because like now I'm going to have to search this and find out more about it. It sounds so interesting.
I know. And I'm actually about to teach a class on this, on the different stones, but let's say like I have and I have stones all around me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I can see them in the back. So anybody watching on YouTube will see it, but the rest of us will have to go to YouTube to check it out.
So like with this one, it's called Align, Become Your Higher Self. And I used mirror apophyllite, and I just literally set it beside this water. And it does have a little bit of holy basil, like Tulsi medicine in it, because that's the like you are sacred medicine. Mm-hmm. And apophyllite is like for your higher self. And there's so much more to say about it, but that was my intention when I made it. So I just literally put it I put the stone by the medicine bottle, let it sit out under the moon overnight.
Full moon or new moon?
I do full moon.
Okay.
But it doesn't, in my book, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's different intentions around the moon, but it feels like that full moon, like it's time to release. So if we're becoming our higher self, it's like we need to actually shed what's back from becoming that higher part of ourselves. And to your point with that numerology quote, it's like becoming there's infinite potential, infinite possibilities of who we can be. We don't have to be labeled and identified as, well, you're a type 1 diabetic, Andrea. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So and there's different properties of stones that carry different energies, if you will. Mm-hmm. So you choose, I love to do it intuitively too, just like what feels good for me right now. So yeah, it's that easy, literally. I mean, there's different methods of doing it where you could just do it in a cup, in a glass of water, have that. And there's like it's called the skimming method, where you would just drink some of your water, take that off the top, and then fill it back with whatever amount you drink, and then keep it charged constantly. And then you notice, and then you sit, and I call it the sacred pause, where you're sitting and you're doing like some intentional journaling, things like that are, what you're noticing. It's just like when I was dieting with that rutilated quartz, I was like, this is for my immune system. This is for my health, autoimmunity. And now I'm just going to witness what wants to come up. And when I was talking about how I went down on my knees, that was just clearly out of the blue. I wasn't even thinking about it, and that was, I know, as a result of that, and like, just show me. So of course you could create your own kind of journal questions around, if you're using like amethyst, that's the sobriety stuff, that top of mind. I think of, the sobriety and like the violet flame kind of thing. But it's, so if you were somebody who dealt with addictions, that would be a great elixir. Just amethyst, so yeah. Oh God, I could talk stones all day too.
I know. Well, and we're not too far apart from each other. We'll have to connect, because there's a huge wholesale crystal show that I go to in North Carolina that we definitely have to have you been to, Franklin?
Yeah, I've been to Franklin. Okay. I've been to Asheville. Yeah.
Were you at Asheville 2 weeks ago or last week?
No, but I think I may go in January to that.
Okay, I was at Asheville last week.
You were?
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, okay, this is super fun. So we have to meet up there and do some crystal shopping together.
You'll have to keep grounded, because I just want to float right off.
Yeah. Well, I take my husband because he grounds me.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what I need to stay. So yes.
I get it.
So any of our listeners who are in the North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee area who would like to meet us at the Crystal Show, come meet with us. It's been so fun lately I've talked about Sweden before because I was an exchange student in high school and I'm still really close to the family there. And I just spent some time last month there. And I have a niece, uh, and she'll be 14 in December.
Yeah.
And like the last time I saw her was 4 years ago because it was pre-COVID and they were in Germany and everything. And so I got to meet this super awesome 13-year-old girl. And I had one of my crystals on and she had her rose quartz on. And
I love
as
it.
I'm sitting at breakfast the next morning, because I spent the night with them, and she's like, "Do you like crystals?" And the conversation that has ensued over the last 5 weeks between this amazing almost 14-year-old and myself on WhatsApp has just
How
been, and
cool.
it's all about crystals. And I'm going back to see her in a month, and I'll be there on her 14th birthday, and I can't wait. Like, I never check a bag, but I'm checking a bag because my bag is going to be so heavy with all the crystals I'm taking her, and I can't wait.
That sounds so fun, right? I know
Yes.
kids, they just pick it up. Like my son, he's 15,
Okay.
but he had all the rock, all the little rock. I had like the shadow box, and my
Mhm.
grandson, all into rocks. My stepdaughter, all into the rock.
Yes.
We're definitely rock people.
Well, and
Definitely.
Kevin's been the same way. Kevin has had his crystal collection. He actually last year was on vacation with his girlfriend's family, 45 minutes from Franklin. So I couldn't go because I was taking care of our cats and dogs because he wasn't home to house sit. So I
Yeah.
gave him our resale license and my company credit card and was a little nervous.
Oh, you
He
are
did
brave,
good.
mama.
I know. I was really brave. And his girlfriend is 20 and she's really getting into crystals. And so it was a great joy for me to send to them.
Yeah.
And the calls I got all day, "Ooh, what about this, mom?" Text pictures, it was so much fun. And that's one of the things is that the energy that they carry, the
Uh-huh.
crystals, and it's just so neat and so connected to the earth.
Right.
It's so grounding.
It's fascinating. I got so tickled because my little Southern saying, I got so tickled. My mom sent me a picture. It was like a TikTok video of this guy pulling out this huge amethyst out of the ground. And I was like, my mom sent me that because I think they think that I'm a little,
Well,
like,
let's not even
what
get
is
on to our moms.
that? Right. And I'm like, what? Well, she sent me that. So she's obviously seen it. Just the fact that this thing comes out of the earth
Mhm.
created that is so, and I'm totally a Taurus, like everything about me. And so it's fascinating. It,
It
it,
is.
it made me so happy to see her send me that, though, because I knew it was a confirmation that maybe she was picking it up, picking up the fun.
Absolutely.
The fascination and the fun and that's so funny that we're talking about crystals of all, in this conversation because um the energy that I've really felt like as I in the year, even in my own business, is like, we were talking about like this is a time for it going inward and reflecting. And
Mhm.
part of me is like, and then like I feel this call to like it's time to like have some fun because the last 2 years,
Mhm.
as everybody knows,
Yes.
it's been rather intense. And so I don't know. That's how I'm just having that feeling and that calling of having more fun, and crystals
Yes. They let you
brings
play. They're
brings that
playmates.
childlike curiosity out.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are definitely playmates because as you said, when your children were younger, your younger sibling, not sibling, I'm sorry, but younger family really loved that. And Kevin, I remember Kevin, and he still makes jokes about it. Every day I would pick him up in car line and he'd give me a rock that he found on the playground. And they
I
weren't
love it.
amethyst, they weren't pretty, they were basically gravel.
Yep,
But
yep.
and so I had a little bucket in the car and every day he got in and put a new one in it. And that was his thing because they felt safe to him. They felt playful, they felt grounding. I'll have to do an episode with him about crystals and things because he's very
Mhm.
um he's always been fun to play with about that. But
They're like
every
bridgers.
day.
Do you see like even the
Yeah.
energy that we're talking about right now, like the way to connect with your children? I mean, yeah. Oh, that gave me chills too. They're connectors.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
We're both just like, okay, let's absorb that in for a
I
moment.
know.
And you can't, this is what he got me for my birthday. It's a heart shaped.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah, and this is what he got me for my birthday this year at Franklin, and I just thought that was so great. It's heart shaped.
That would melt my heart.
What?
That would melt my heart if my son
Oh my
came home
gosh.
like, here, mama.
Yeah. I was so proud of him. It sits right next to the Buddha he gave me on my desk. So.
I'm loving your son.
Yes, I think he's pretty cool too. But it's kind of like we said about our moms, if like they don't get us. My best girlfriend and I always say, because she's got a 11 and a 6-year-old, and we both love our moms. Like, we're grateful for our moms. They're not horrible, wretched people. But we say, do you know how amazing we would be if we had been our own moms? Like, if our moms had been as cool as us, how amazing would we have been?
Right.
So I just know that Kevin's just going to be fabulous because he's got me as his mom.
That's right.
Like, and not even being cocky about, oh, I'm his mom, but just the tools that we're giving them for their toolbox. And like, we can all make jokes about it, but I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm a fabulous mom, because I definitely make my mistakes.
Oh,
we had a whole conversation where I apologized about where I'd failed on today. But we give them all these tools and we let them explore them and figure out what works for them. And that's what's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. That's so good.
So we're completely off the numerology topic. And I was actually thinking, so do we end this episode and use it as a crystal episode later? Or how do we shift into numerology? So I do want to hear more of your journey. I want to hear more about your journey leaving modern medicine to find your spiritual medicine and into numerology, because that's really what you love and you're called to.
Yeah. So I was attuned to Reiki about 4 years before I quit my nursing career. And there was something, it was actually after I was saved, baptized, like old brother, where art thou style in a river. And like,
because you are in South Carolina, my friend.
I am in South Carolina. And it was in the river, like right there in the Blue Ridge Mountains, though. That's where my family is from. Brevard, Hendersonville kind of area. Okay. Anyway, so I was baptized in the river, and that was an awakening in and of itself, and then I was like, there's something more, there's something bigger than this. And of course, I started questioning, like, there was some deep calling. I don't even know if I have words to describe it, to be honest with you. It was like this deep, like, craving to understand myself and to know, like, the bigger purpose. And here I was, like, 23, 26-ish kind of age when I was baptized. There was somewhere in there. Anyway, what is time? So, but whenever I was attuned to Reiki, because I'd went for like 4 months, I drove up to Asheville and I would go see my Reiki master. And the moment I knew that I needed to know how to do Reiki myself was when I had an experience of, I had this place on my ovary, and one of my, I hope this isn't like TMI, but it is like real life story here. But I was a nursing supervisor, and one of my employees, she had just passed from ovarian cancer. And so when they told me I had a place on my ovary, I was, my nurse brain takes you to the worst case scenario. And so I was scared out of my wits and went to see my Reiki master. Her name was Jennifer. And I remember just lying down on her table, and I was like, my intention is for this to leave my body right now. And it left, and I felt it. And it went down like my left, like down through my left hip, down my left leg, and I could feel it come out of my left foot. And it was like a zing, zing sound and feeling. It's so weird to describe, but I knew, and my grandmother taught me this, like, Andrea, when you know something, you're going to know that you know that you know that you know. And I knew that it was gone, and I still had to have surgery. I had to have a hysterectomy, but I told my doctor about it, and I was like, because we didn't know if we were going to have to take my ovaries. And I came out of surgery and she was like, your ovaries are beautiful. Here's a picture of both of them, you know? And so, it was just confirmation, like that was going to be part of my path too. And so, you know, when I was attuned, I go back into the hospital. I'm like, you just don't see things the same. You just don't see things the same. And, I just started like every day I would go home after work and watch this show. I don't even know the channel. And it was all about holistic healing, about holistic nutrition, yoga, meditation, breath work, all of those things. And I would just sit there and watch it. And I would be working out as I watched it. And finally, I went to, you know, continue some Reiki things. And anyway, like my learning with Reiki. And then I met my partner. I'm kind of fast forwarding here. I met my partner and he was so supportive of me leaving my nursing career, because I would just go to work crying. I would leave crying because it was so toxic. It was a very toxic environment. And so, and I knew that I wanted, like, healing was more than like, here's a pill, you know? And so I knew that, you know, when I see in the introduction, we were talking about being fragmented. It was like this, almost like this soul retrieval. Like we're coming back into our bodies. We're coming back with our mind, our body, and our spirit when we tend to that relationship with all of that. Because being in right relationship with yourself, that's the medicine, right? So, because it really does dictate all the other relationships around you. So, so I knew I didn't want to feel fragmented anymore. I didn't want to be part of like fragmenting anyone anymore. And it took a lot of courage to leave though. And then I, of course, had to grieve that identity as a nurse, which hit me like a 2x4. I had no idea that I would have to grieve that. I was just so focused on like, I'm doing healthcare differently. So when I left, I immediately went into a yoga teacher training, a 9-month yoga teacher training. And then I did a 2-year certification in holistic nutrition. And, you know, things have just evolved. Then numerology came along just 3 years ago though. And so I studied with a teacher, and she, you know, I'd always seen numbers everywhere. Like growing up, I'd always see 1016, 1134, 1111, 111, all of the angel numbers, you know, the 333, 444. And so I knew like there's, you know, I started to pay attention, like, what am I thinking when I see these numbers? Why am I seeing these numbers? So it was another fascination, you know, along with the crystals and the stones, all that, because I don't know, once you start learning things, it's like, the more you know that you don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm cool with that. I don't know everything. I know there's a lot of things in this head, but I don't know it all. But I love to explore and talk about childlike curiosity. That was another thing that a client had said to me. Was like, I love that about you, Andrea. You do have this childlike curiosity. And that meant the world to me, because I had been so serious for so many years, like because of what that doctor told me, you know, when I was 15. So yeah, that was a very condensed version of like how I got here, but it's, or, you know, with what I'm doing now, but I now mostly work with women. I don't do the nutrition part anymore. It started feeling like clinical again to me. I was like, nope, I don't want to go there. And I realize now it was more for me, that nutrition piece.
Well, and there's probably some of that mourning and the transition of where you were to where you're going to be. Tell us how you found the numbers and what the numbers mean to you, what using numerology is for you.
So well, you know, that quote that we were looking at is that which
numerology is the religion of the stars.
The religion of the stars. Yeah. So that's numerology is basically where, you know, where we get the alphabet, where we like that's what astrology is based on, things like that. So, you know, the teacher that I learned under, Megan Alton is her name. She is phenomenal with numbers, and she's also a strategic like business person too. So it's fascinating how numbers can actually increase your intuition. And so I think too, when those numbers present themselves and it's like, hey, look at me, like that's something to say, hey, let me pause. Again, I believe so much in that practice of that sacred pause and going, what was I just thinking? What am I thinking? What am I feeling right now? What is my overall like frequency? Like, where am I right now? Because I'm constantly checking in with myself. Again, being in right relationship. So that was, I hope I answered your question about how I found numbers, and then just continue to explore. Like actually, Robert Lee Camp, he lives in Nashville. He has a great podcast on numerology and numbers. And he has I can't remember the name of his website, but I think it's on Spotify. And he has some really fascinating conversations.
So how do you use numbers in your daily life to guide you?
So like today, every day I tune into the daily energy. And today we're in 7 energy. When you calculate 11, 9, 20, 21, you put all of those numbers together to get down to one number. And that's 7. It equals a 7 today. And so the 7, so I know what all of those things mean. And there's always there's duality in all things. Well, there's duality in numbers. So there's a high side of numbers, in our experience, and there's a low side of numbers in our experience. So I use it basically as a navigation tool on the daily, right? And then, and it helps me navigate, like whenever I wake up, what daily energy I usually know, because I do it every day. I know. So, I know like today in 7 energy, it's like, take brave action. It's like the Fool in the tarot, right? Like, take the leap of action. So today would be like, prioritize your energy, then take that brave action. Because the 7 is the Chariot in the major arcana, and that's like the momentum, the confidence, all those kinds of things. Like, you're being pulled by something greater, by like this higher purpose.
Okay.
Right. And so, we can talk more about that too, but that's how I use it on the daily. I actually have a numerology calendar on my website that we can talk about too, but that's a way that you can go, okay, well, am I experiencing the high side of the number, or am I experiencing the low side of the number? And wherever you are, it is wherever you are, right? But you can have awareness about where you are mentally, physically, spiritually, however you want to look at that and interpret that. It can help you navigate.
So you said it twice, and I'd like to dig a little more into the low side and the high side, because I have a friend who does numerology. She's my life coach, and she had me sit down and do I did it for a couple months, and I never could tune into it.
Okay.
So I would look at, okay, this is, I was trying to plan my weeks over, these are the days I'm going to be creative. These are the days I need to go inward. And I just couldn't connect to that. Because it felt like a lot of work.
Yeah.
I make it simple.
Right. So if you have the different interpretations, and if you look at it as like, I'm going to feel empowered today, how can I use numerology to empower me today? Or am I feeling like really disempowered today? And so I think if you look at it from that kind of duality in just noticing where you are, then you can reach for a better feeling. I'm not saying bypassing. I'm not a believer in like, let's bypass our feelings kind of thing. But if you do connect to it as a way of going, I want to empower myself. So how can I experience the high side of this? Or maybe I'm just on the low side today and I feel really disempowered. What would empower me? And so when you know the different energies, the different words that are, that go with the 7 or whatever daily energy that you're in, then you can know that. And then when you know your ruling number, your archetypal energy, and understand all of the things based around that, then you can put it all together and just witnessing, okay, well, I know this is one of my weaknesses as this ruling archetypal energy. And then there's stuff like in the soul purpose blueprint, things that I do that definitely name parts that are specific to your personality, but it's a way to like understand yourself,
Mm-hmm.
And to
Well,
choose differently if you need to.
I think for me, I put so much pressure on the fact that I wanted to learn it because she's so awesome and she
Yeah.
uses it and rattles it off. And it sounds so interesting. So I had a lot of pressure around it from myself, not from
Yeah.
her.
Right.
And so what I would do is at the beginning of the month, I would take a calendar and I'd figure out all the dates and I would try to plan my work projects around it. And it just didn't work because clients don't let me plan a month in advance what I'm going
Right.
to do and where their deadlines are. And so, as you said, empowered and disempowered. So, do you, in your personal experience, what the date? Because I actually, while you were talking before you mentioned it, I pulled your website out and I was like, oh, she has a calendar. Like, that's what I need because it was too much pressure to sit down and write it all out.
Yeah.
Do you just, you know what each day means? So in the morning you look at it and you're like, cool, how am I going to implement this today? Because my downfall for me was I tried to block days off of I'm not going to have client calls these days and I'm not going to do this that day. And then I would have to do a client call or I would have to do something.
Yeah.
And I would just feel so disempowered.
Oh, yeah. And you know what else is coming up right now? Like there is, I plan on doing a whole workshop around this too. Like there's weekly energies that, and like the day that you were born on, like that could be your CEO day, right? So that could be a day that you help plan things too. So we're so rhythmic, right? Like we're rhythmic beings, and things aren't going to always, like, we try to plan and control and things like that too.
Ugh.
But it is empowering though, whenever you can create a schedule for yourself that's like, okay, this is my rhythm, this is how it goes. But there's life. And that's where we can learn to talk about control, like where we can be more agile and just kind of go with the flow. But that's a whole journey in and of itself, right?
Isn't it always?
Yes.
It's I mean, I'm calling myself out on my need to control and my need to have it worked out and all those other things.
I get it. We're human, The
Well,
more
and
I
I'm
could just kind of
excited.
laugh at myself and just be like, oh, you're so human. Just so human.
Yeah. Some days are easier than others. And as you and I talked about before we started recording, it's really of the last couple of weeks have been really intense. And I mean, like, who are we kidding? The last couple of weeks, it's been
Right.
longer than that. But I know I was feeling so connected 2 weeks ago. Like I was on fire. My soul was filled with so much passion. And then it's gone. And you spend all that time going, how do I get that back? I'm so far away from it. What do I do? How do I connect with that again? And that's, I guess, the joy of being human. You get to do that because we can't live there all the time.
Well, I know. And I always talk about that. So I go live a lot. It's so funny on TikTok, which we can talk about too. I never imagined I'd be over there. I'm like, that's kids' app. That's not cool. But I have so much fun over there. And I talk about how the divinity is really in our humanity. It's in our emotions. We're not robots. And the more we can feel our feelings, and not stuff them down and, pretend. And a lot of this, hey, I think we learn, I'll say this, one of my greatest spiritual teachers has been being an entrepreneur. And that's been really top of mind for me lately, is how many entrepreneurs, and I just relate to this because I am one, right? So just seeing how lonely that journey can be sometimes, and, really having a safe space to go to. Like, what do you reach for inspiration when you're feeling disconnected? Because sometimes you can't just go, okay, well, I choose differently and it just works. Like, that's not true always. So I think, even podcasts are so inspiring. That can, I know I listen to a lot of different podcasts and music and things like that to try to get me reconnected. And sometimes it doesn't work.
My big one's meditation. That's where I love to go because it's the quiet.
Yeah.
Just being with my own thoughts and letting go of what's not serving me and connecting with my soul center. And
Yeah.
meditation's been hard the last couple of weeks, and I
Mhm.
normally can drop right in there, but it's definitely been hard the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. And now there's been so many times where I'm about to record a guided meditation. I'm like, no, I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
Just not feeling it. So I don't force. I really feel blessed that I don't have to like force myself to do anything at this point. But as I say that, don't let me fool you. Sometimes I will force myself. So let me check myself there.
I appreciate that. It's definitely I don't have to, but do I sometimes force? Because when we lose touch, that's where I find myself, is
Mhm.
in that push of doing it. And then it's that coming back to, oh yeah, this is who I really am. Not that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The act of remembering, and how do you get there to it's the pause. Like I have to pause so much,
Yes.
give myself space. And not everybody has that opportunity or that, and so I try to be really mindful of who I'm talking to when I say those things. But I do believe, if we can carve out time, because I think that we can create time in that way,
Mm-hmm.
being really intentional about, well, I've got to put this on my calendar right now, to put this, or use the numerology calendar and go, hey, this is on this day. This is my daily number. This is my daily, my personal day number. So I know mine is a 1. I always feel that new beginning, kind of like stirring, like new inspiration. And I don't know if it's like I've trained myself at this point to just be in rhythm, the 1 through 9 day like energy of numerology.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I have at this point, and so I know, and that's what I'm saying. It's like my compass, my navigation tool. I'm like, yeah, on these days, I know I'm going to be creative. I know I'm going to feel that inspiration. And then some days you wake up and you're like, nope, not happening today.
And giving yourself that grace,
Mhm.
giving yourself the grace to say, I don't have to have it today.
Yep.
I don't have to be there.
Mhm. Don't have to. Don't,
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my clients, I'm like, don't shit on yourself. Don't shit on yourself.
I had lunch with my soul sister 2 weeks ago, and it was a big conversation of some stuff that was really transitioning in my life. And she's the one who can call me out every time. And oh, just some days I'm like, could you not call me out just once? And we were talking, and I said 2 specific things, and she just looked at me, and she is my soul sister. She is 20 years older than me, almost to the day. She's 20 years older than me to the week.
Oh,
And so
wow.
there's so much wisdom and so much love that happens between the two of us. And we've been friends for 18 years. And she looked at me with her loving, smiling eyes and said, sounds like you're shitting yourself a lot. And you just go, well, F you, buddy. Like, I didn't need to hear that, but yes, I did. Because we so shit ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then,
yeah.
and that's, to me, that's just one of the worst things to say, is that I've been shitting myself.
Yeah.
And I said to her, but I should have done it sooner. She's like, nope.
And then, you know what? As we can say these things and like, but then there really is like this 3D reality kind of thing that it's like, hold on, maybe, yeah, to your point, I mean, you should do that. Like, we still need to hold ourselves somewhat accountable. Like, we can't get away from that.
Yeah.
So there's a very practical thing that we can do for ourselves and be like, okay, well, we should. But it's the part where we're like getting stuck and beating ourselves up. And then the inner critic comes out and is like, beating you up within, beating yourself up.
Oh, girl.
I know. It is like IRL, in real life, these things happen.
Ugh. Yes, so much so. And so I've loved our time talking together today.
I know. I feel like we could talk like about a million different things. So good.
Well, and that's the thing is we're already at 50 minutes. And so wanting to respect people's time and your time for recording, I want people to actually listen to the whole episode. And if it says an hour and 25 minutes, nobody's ever going to listen to this. But that's such the joy of the podcast to me, is that I've met so many amazing women all over the country, all over the world. And it's just so much fun to see we're all alike and we're all unique and we're all going through the same stuff and we're all experiencing something different, but we're all in this together. And that's what I love about it all. And so thank you for being a part of my community now.
Absolutely.
And being part of my journey, because we are so close geographically that we are going to get together very soon.
I know. I can feel it. I'm excited.
Yeah. And you've mentioned a couple of your programs as we were talking, and I've got your website pulled up. And by the way, your Instagram link on your website is not working. So fix that.
Yeah.
Because I want people to find you. So I'm going to have all of your information on groundingjourney.com on our podcast. But where can people find you and how can they connect with you?
So I'm on Facebook. I'm not as active on Facebook or social media besides TikTok. That's like my vlog, my video, and every day I'm making a TikTok, and I go live there pretty often. At least once a week, I try to go live. And my website, of course, AndreaArledge.com, but on Facebook, just Andrea Arledge is my business page. There's links there. I hope they work. A lot of people, it's like that I connect with has been so word of mouth lately. It's interesting. Talk about the universe, like just putting people in your path. Like I haven't really even been marketing myself much. And my focus is kind of shifting again in my business. So I'm doing a little bit of business coaching myself too. And it's so fun with numbers.
Yes, I love it. Well, we're going to do our bonus episode where you actually do my numbers and talk to me about how it affects what I'm doing and how to use that as motivation. So anybody who's interested in numerology, doesn't know where to start, can listen to the bonus episode and really get a feel for what it is. And then of course, they're going to think you're as awesome as I think you are and want to reach out to you. So thank you so much, so much, so much for your time. Thank you for the conversation. It's been so much fun to talk to you. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to say on the numerology. And I'm really excited to have you as my friend now and keep in touch.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to subscribe to my podcast to make sure you get access to all of my upcoming episodes. While you're there, I'd appreciate if you could leave a review too.